So one of the things I find myself doing on a recurring basis with clients is talking about how I run my calls, because especially for people that just started with high ticket closing or they just become full-time high ticket closers, one of the biggest things they find is, hey, my calls are too long. How do you structure your calls? I typically run over the hours. Sometimes I even take 2 hours, or my calls are too unpredictable. So my days can really become a roller coaster of calls, and I know that has to do with how I am running the calls and what happens before and after. So in this video, I'm going to share what I do in the calls, like how I run the calls, what I do before and after the calls, so that you can see like a process that works. And if you see anything that is interesting to you, you can start applying to your calls. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. So let's get into it. The first thing is what happens before the calls. Not the call, but what happens at the beginning of my day, like how I structure my day. I love this quote that says, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And it's such a great quote because honestly, more than half of it is how do you prepare for your day? How do you prepare for your calls? And the first thing that I do is I confirm all my calls. I do it the day before I sign off, and I do it the next day. The first thing I do is confirming my calls, because if something comes up out of the blue, I know I can organize my day, etc. I just want to make sure that I send my reminders, I send my confirmations, and that's the first thing that I do, the first thing in the day. The next thing that I do as people start getting back to me is I make sure people are following my pre-call sequence. And this is key. If you don't have a pre-call sequence, you're wasting or you're losing a great opportunity for people to get to know you, for you to build trust with these meetings that you have, and essentially build a relationship before the call happens. And you don't need to spend a lot of time. It's just a system that is always the same and involves, number one, an assignment, like having them do some sort of assignment, because that's going to warm them up. It's going to give them basic information. It's going to answer common questions they have. And that's something that I always recommend doing, installing a pre-call assignment for every call that you have. And it's literally like, hey, everybody needs to go through this assignment. Otherwise, we don't have the call. Can you do this? And just creating this commitment right from the beginning. But furthermore, once they commit, I always introduce myself. You can send a Loom video, and you can always send the same Loom video just as an introduction. You can send a message as well, and then you can keep the conversation going with a simple question. And this way, they already know you before they know you, so to say. That is massive. After making sure that everybody's following the pre-call sequence, the next most important thing when it comes to my calls is what it is that you do before your calls to get in the right state of mind. Okay, and there are different techniques, different routines people have. You have to find your own. Some people have a pre-call checklist that they just simply go through, very conscious, almost like a guided meditation, where they're just reading certain things that they know they need to put attention on when they hop on the call about their state. Some people like to do a specific meditation. It really depends. Some people don't do anything because they prepare the day. They have a routine in their day where they make sure that by the time they hop on calls, they're in the right state of mind. But every good closer I know, they're very, very intentional about their state, and they are aware of how important it is. And they make sure that once they start taking calls, at the beginning of every single call, they're in the right state. This prevents them from having like a roller coaster and prevents them from allowing one bad call to contaminate another interaction. So they have a process, and again, it's different for everybody, to reset before the next call. And if it's even needed, you will be late for the next call if you need to take 2 to 3 minutes to reset mentally, because it's much, much better to be late and show up with the right state than allowing a bad interaction or than allowing having a bad state go into the next call. Now we get into the call itself. So one of the things that I like to remind myself constantly during my entire day, and I did this as part of my training, so now it's just ingrained, but you can put in your pre-call checklist if you want to. And it's very simple. It's just a very, very good reminder of the principles of leadership and high-ticket closing. Number one, it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. Number two, my goal is to create change. This helps me be detached from the sale. My goal is to create change in the person, perspectives, decisions, behaviors. Nothing to do with the sale. My goal is to create change and being able to facilitate a process that helps this person to actually make the best decisions for themselves, whatever that might be. So my goal is to create change. Number 3, almost always change is going to require discomfort. Almost always change is going to require discomfort. So I prepare myself to what I know is about to happen in most cases, which is discomfort, concerns, fear, etc. I'm already preparing myself. I know it's going to happen. I'm ready. If that shows up, I'm not going to feel surprised or anything like that. And number 4, they need me. They can't do it by themselves. They need a leader. They need a beacon of light. So number 1 is just a conversation. My goal is to create change. Almost always change requires discomfort, and they need me. They cannot do it alone. It's a great reminder. If you need to put in your pre-call checklist, it's amazing. It really works for me, and that I have present during the call. The second thing is the framework and my style. Like, how do I run the calls? I am not a big proponent of scripts. In our academy, the way we teach the methodologies, we do use scripts for the learning, but one of the things that we always do is get rid of the script as soon as possible. You don't want to create a dependency, so to say. Our style is all about a flexible framework. And the word flexible is very important because a lot of people say, don't follow a script, follow a framework. And what happens when you just get so caught up in a framework, it's that you get rigid and you just always follow a framework. There's a little bit of room, but you're just still very rigid. So what we teach and what we do is a flexible framework, which is even more flexible, allowing you to make your conversations more efficient, making sure you're having the most relevant conversation constantly. And there is basically no fluff in the conversation. We're only talking about relevant things that actually serve the call and serve the person. There are different methodologies out there that uses this flexible framework approach. Ours is called cognitive behavioral dialogue, because essentially what we do is we're facilitating a dialogue between two people, and we're bringing awareness between cognition and behavior, and we are leveraging self-influence, where we ask the questions, they come up with the answers, therefore they come up with the conclusions and the decisions. And this way we leverage the most powerful way of influence, which is self-influence. Because when someone make a decision because it was their idea, they are willing to defend that decision, even in the evidence that they are wrong, just because it was their idea. That's how powerful our own ideas are. That's the most powerful way of influencing and helping someone achieve what they want to achieve. And the way I run these calls with this framework and the way we teach this in our academy is very simple. We break down the call in 3 phases: discovery phase, presentation phase, and then concerns or objection handling. This approach is heavily based on objection prevention. So if you follow the process the way it is, you're going to prevent most of the objection. And at the end, all you're going to have is just concerns, but they are 100% in. Discovery phase is the first phase and is the most important one and is the longer one, typically the longest one. So typically it's like 25 minutes. And that's where the magic happens, in the discovery phase, where we dive deeper into the person's situation, their drivers, etc. There's a whole process to it. And then through that process, we not only prevent objections, but we activate the buying state, and we also filter and we see tangibly if this person is a good match for the type of service that we have, or if it's not. If it's not, then we'll tell them and we recommend a different pathway. And if they are, then we present the solution. That will be the second phase, presentation. And then right after presentation, we're ready to go to enroll the client. Unless they have any concern, we handle the concern, and then we collect payment and enroll the client. Discovery, presentation, and then concerns or objection handling. That's how we break down the calls. That's how we run the calls. Also, I want to make a small parenthesis here because a lot of people ask me about the gear. The gear is not that important, but you do need to have a minimum viable gear. You don't need to have a fancy camera. You can have a Logitech webcam. I started with the C920, which is like a very, very basic webcam. You just have good lighting and it's going to be fine. Or even the laptop webcam. Nowadays, the webcams of the laptops are fine. What is more important though is the sound. Okay, just making sure you have good sound. And you don't need to have like a mic like this, but at least like something that sounds good. Is much, much worth it investing in a high quality mic than a camera. And then you just, you go step by step, but you don't need like fancy gear, like a fancy equipment. It's more about the sound and also just making sure that, everything in your background is decent, and everything with yourself, your presence, the way you're showing up, you're present, you're fresh, you're there, and you look professional, and that's pretty much it. And then we finish the call, we enroll the client, or if it wasn't a good fit, we just recommend a different path, and we finish the call and we're ready for the next call. For the next call, if you need to do a reset, everybody has their own process. You can go for a walk, you can do a little meditation, you can read a pre-call checklist. Doesn't matter. Just make sure that for the next call, you show up in the right state of mind with the right energy, and then you just go into the next call, right? And we repeat this process. Just always making sure that in between calls, you have a moment to reset. That's very, very important. Doesn't have to be like 10 minutes. It can just be 5. It really depends on your schedule. And then at the end of the day, and this is the most important thing, it's very, very important to be organized and to have a routine to make sure that admin-wise, reporting-wise, you are being a professional and you're making sure that everybody is on the loop with your performance and with the team, etc. So I have like a little admin routine that is very simple. First of all, what I do is I update all my calls through my notes, the notes that I've taken. And if I have to watch the recording, I watch the recording, and then I just write down my reporting of what happened today, just keeping the team updated, keeping the founders updated as well. How went the calls, what were the results, etc. Just do a nice and very well put together report. By the way, before I do the report, there are 2 things that I do. Number 1, I make sure all my calls for tomorrow are confirmed. If I have to cancel, reschedule, send an ultimatum or something, I just make sure I take care of the calendar tomorrow. That's very, very important. The second thing I do is I clear my inbox, my email, my text messages, whatever the channel is that you communicate with potential customers. I just clear my inbox. I just get back to everybody. Then I do my reporting. Then I do my tracking. Then I fill out my commissions just to keep track of all the money that I've made. And I have a spreadsheet with money that I'm making every single day, the value, the deals, etc. And that will be it for the admin part. Then the next thing that I do, because I'm very competitive, I love to grow, I assess my performance. So I analyze my calls. I just take a look at my calls by looking at my report, and I decide which are the calls that I want to review and I want to get better at. I always do this. Another thing that I do in assessing my performance, in this assessing my performance section, is if there is a great call or a call that is worth remembering and saving, I do that and I put it in my wins document. I always recommend closers to have a wins document where you collect your best conversations as a way to be able to go back to them and review your best conversations and to see yourself in your best, highest mood and vibration and state, so that if at any time you get in a bad mood or you have doubts or whatever, or you feel a little bit uncertain, you can always go back and just remember who you truly are when you are in your highest peak. Beautiful, beautiful tool, and is very, very powerful and helpful to have a wins document with your best calls, your best performance, the best transformational conversations you've had. I highly, highly recommend it. So if there's any call that is worth like putting my wins doc, I put it there. I assess my performance. I just plan my training or what are the things that I want to improve. And that's pretty much it. Now at that point, I can sign off for the day and completely disconnect. That's pretty much it. That's how I organize my day. That's how I run my calls. That's what I do before and after the calls, and what I do before signing off, to have a routine, to really be a professional, to really show up every single day with routines and habits, and to keep things consistent. Let me know if you like this video. If you do, please let me know in the comments. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already, and I will see you on the next video.